Going live. Going live in 3, 2, 1, and we are live. Welcome, everybody. Let me just double check I'm live like I usually do, but I'm pretty sure we are. Yes, we are. Welcome, everybody, to Renaissance Radio episode 3. I decided to jump in and do another episode today. I know it's not Friday. We will do on Friday, but I just thought I had a bit of spare time and I had a few things I wanted to talk about, and I thought let's just stream. Let's go on the podcast. Let's make an episode. Now, in today's episode, we will be talking about Assassin's Creed Mirage and my predictions for the game. Now, I've not really done this yet, so I thought, why not do it on the podcast, and I might end up, editing it up into a main channel video or something. I don't know, but I just have a few things I think the game will go. Like, I perceive the game going a certain way, and I want to give that as my predictions, and then when the game does come out, when we review the game, when we play the game, we will see whether I was right, whether I was completely wrong, and everything in between. So that's going to be kind of what this podcast stream is going to be. And again, I will be talking to you guys in the chat as well. So if you have any questions, you want to join in on this, we can also talk about maybe your predictions and that sort of thing. Now, again, I am wearing a coat because I have a plan, right? Obviously, heating these days is quite expensive, and it's freezing right now in England. So I thought, if I just don't have my heating on as much, when my contract renews in March, they're going to pay me back a nice little bit of extra money. So I've had my heating on, but right now I'm just chilling in the cold, isn't it? It's not too cold, to be fair. But I'm checking the chat. It's over there today. I know I'm in a different room, and that's because I'm just trying something out. I'm trying to see if this looks more professional, if you guys like this more, or you guys just prefer it in my bedroom where I usually do it. So you guys can let me know in chat. Now, I will say hello to you guys. Warrior, Ghost Warrior 38, I've seen you before in the comments. All we can do at this point is hope for the best. Of course. But we will go into detail on what we hope will be best and what we hope won't. Brandon, how you doing, man? What's up, dude? I'm a super stoked for AC Mirage. I hope the game is going to be good. Don't we all? And again, that's what we're going to be going into today. Now, I probably won't be talking about too much other than just the main topic today, because I just think that's just what we're going to do. Now, without further ado, we will get into this. But before we do, I just want to say these episodes are now also on Spotify. Now, I should have actually linked this in the description. I wonder if I can quickly do that for you guys. So you guys, if you would like to, can give a quick follow if you'd rather listen to me on Spotify, once the episode has aired. Now, only episode 1 is up right now. I do need to get episode 2 up, and then later I will get episode 3 up. What I'll do is, actually, I'll just tell you guys, no, I'll do it now, because if I don't do it now, I will forget. I'll see if I can add a link to the Spotify in maybe the description of this live, perhaps. Or what I can do is I can add it to the channel. I'll really quickly do that, and I'll keep talking while we're doing that. Actually, you know what? It's going to take me ages. I'll just add it to the description when this live is ended. I'll just do that, because I don't want to be doing loads of random stuff while I'm trying to chat to you guys. Brandon, usually flats in the UK are incredibly hot because of the heating. Yeah, I get you. What? Just because flats are quite small, apartments are quite small, so they heat up quicker. To be fair, my house isn't too big because it's just me living here. I don't live in a massive house, so it does heat up quite quick. So I'm actually quite good. I probably don't need to really wear this, but I kind of think it looks good, I wore it in episode 1 of the podcast. I was like, it looks kind of good, So I'm wearing it again. So maybe that's just an excuse for me to wear this coat indoors. I don't know. Without further ado, let's get into this. And I've got notes on my phone, so I can look through. I wrote some notes on my predictions, and we're going to start with gameplay. So I predict gameplay is going to be a mix of the old and new. So I think it's going to play similar to the older games, but when I say older games, not the proper OG games, more kind of Unity, Syndicate style of gameplay, with stealth, with potential social stealth, blending with the crowds, hiding in the hay, sitting on benches and stuff like that. But then, as I said, normal stealth is obviously, sneaking. I think sneaking and, looking behind corners and stuff is going to be kind of like it was in Syndicate. I think that makes a lot of sense if they're going to try and bring back what people wanted or what people, enjoyed from the older games. The less new games. And I think when it comes to mixing with the new, I think combat is just going to be Valhalla combat pretty much. You might get some daggers and you'll start going really fast like you do if you hot press, blah, blah, blah. I think, I don't think there will be stuff like shields and bows. I don't think there'll be anything like that. But if there were, I think you'd be able to do exactly the same stuff. I think if you had swords, you're just going to slash in the same animations. It's going to play in a very similar way. The difference being that there probably won't be XP points flashing on the screen and stuff like that, because this one, so far as we know, isn't going to be an RPG. It's going to be more like the older games, an action adventure. So I think it's going to be a mix of the old and the new with that stuff. Newer, I just had a memory back then, like newer combat styles like Valhalla, like Odyssey, without probably the power-ups and stuff. I don't think they'll have that just because, again, it's not being an RPG from what we know. So I think there'll be no skill trees, which means there'll be no unlocking, super kick, chop the head off, throw a ton of axes out of nowhere and stuff like that. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Basim will start throwing a ton of daggers out of his pockets in a LBRB power attack thing. But I don't think that will be in the game, and I think that will be for the best. I think it will be same combat, just not the power up stuff like that. So again, a mix of the old and the new. Now let's see what else I put here, because I might have added to gameplay there. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought would be. I think tools, we've heard that they're going to bring back throwing knives, they're going to bring back smoke bombs, that sort of thing. I think they will be done in a new way. I don't think they'll be exactly the same as Syndicate. Maybe throwing knives will be the same as in Syndicate, where you hold, LT, press RT, and you can aim it and throw it. I think it'd be more like that, but I think, some of the newer tools will be done in a new way. Which is good because, a mix of the old and, I say the new, I say a mix of the old and the current is fine, but we want something new and enhanced and expanded upon as well. We don't want to just have a load of what we've already got. It's good to be what's the word? Innovative. Face reveal ? No, I've shown my face before in the lives. You've probably just not seen it before. I just don't like to show my face all of the time, like in all my main videos, just because I think I've said this before, but it's not really about me. It's about the content. It's about Assassin's Creed, or it's about Oblivion, for example, with the PSP video I made on that. It's about the game. It's not about me, so I don't usually like to show my face. Also, sometimes I will just be not looking too good. I'll be in my pajamas, or I'll be naked. No, I won't be naked. Or I might be. I don't know. Probably not. And I'll be doing voiceover where I don't really want people to see, how I'm looking. You know what I mean? So, the live is fine, though, because I'm live streaming. I think I'm engaging with you guys more. So it makes sense to show my face then, if you know what I mean. So that's why I show my face if I'm live streaming and, it's a podcast as well. Brandon says, my prediction for gameplay is going to be very similar to Unity, Syndicate, and Origins for stealth, parkour, and combat. Yeah, I get you. That makes a lot of sense. Origins for combat. Me personally, I think they'll just take a lot from Valhalla, just because originally it was going to be a DLC for Valhalla, and then they expanded upon it and made it its own thing. So it makes sense they're just going to use Valhalla's combat. And in Ubisoft's mind, they're probably saying, well, Valhalla combat was the most recent, so it's the better combat. They're probably going to say that. But I do, I know what you're saying. I think parkour is going to be taken right out of Unity. We've heard tweets from, different Ubisoft Twitter accounts from different countries that people have translated, and then it said Unity parkour is basically making a return, or it's been heavily inspired for Mirage. So I think they're going to pretty much get Unity parkour in, whether you say that's good or bad. Yes, very floaty. Yes, you don't get much control, but it looks good and it feels satisfying. And if that's what we get, I'm not complaining. I do think we will get Unity-style parkour. Now, I'm not going to say Syndicate-style parkour, because you used a zip wire type thing, and you couldn't really jump off buildings, and it was non-existent pretty much, the parkour in that game. Yeah, you could still do stuff, but it was Unity, and then you drop you drop right down to a much more dumbed down version of that. And so I don't think you can really compare or say it's going to be like Syndicate. You can only really say it's going to be like Unity, because that is what people say is the gold standard of Assassin's Creed parkour. I personally don't agree. I don't think there is a gold standard or anything like that. I think my personal favorite was the like Ezio Collection parkour, because you had much more control. It was a lot more, you had to use your mind a lot more to think, where am I going to climb next? How am I going to do this? Where Unity's was a lot more, it looked good, it felt good, but there was less control, and it was more, it was more of a ways to fly across the rooftops of the city, rather than to kind of, where the older games were more of like a puzzle climbing, and a bit more platformy, I suppose you could say. So I think it'll be more like Unity's when it comes to parkour in Mirage. Blackwoods and Access the Animus don't show their faces much either. Yeah, I don't think. Oh, I know. I think I know who you mean. I know who Access the Animus is, but I think I know who Blackwoods is. Is he the guy that does major clickbait? I think he is, because sometimes I see his videos come up and I'm like, oh my god, bro, like, no offense, like, you gotta do your thing, I guess. But sometimes I see his thumbnails and he's the guy who tries to make it like a PS4 trailer. He puts like the PlayStation in the corner and he's like reveal or something like that, and he puts like TM at the end of his titles, and I'm like, listen, again, I know it's your job, you gotta make your money, but like, that's some outrageous clickbait right there. But yeah, no hate though, no hate. But yeah, they don't show their face that much. Again, it's about the game. It's not really about the person, I suppose. Whereas lives, I suppose, are a little bit more about the person as well. I'm sorry if I missed some of your guys' chat. Like, there's a lot of stuff to read, and obviously I'm talking, I'm looking back, and then there's like 3 more things. So if I miss anything, I'm not missing anything deliberately. I'm not deliberately not reading out what you've said. But if you want to keep chatting, I will see your stuff eventually. Hoping we don't get the same combat as Valhalla. I mean, yeah, but I do think that's my prediction, that we will, to be honest with you. I think that is what we're going to get. Now, I'm only doing this for an hour today, because obviously it's 9:15 here in the UK. So let's go through, let's keep going. So next is about world. I think the world will be, Ubisoft have always been really detailed, really intricate, and really creative with their in-game worlds, or their open worlds, with the first game with the world there, all the way up to Valhalla. Yeah, you can say what you will about like Odyssey, for example, it being an empty game, not much to do, boring stuff, blah 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 blah. But the world was very beautiful. It was very beautiful, and I feel like the world designers have always done an amazing job making games at Ubisoft. So I feel like Baghdad is going to be a really, I don't know about accurate, but a really detailed representation of Baghdad. I think it will be, very reminiscent of kind of Revelations, kind of the first game in aesthetic, just because it is, obviously it's not the same culture, it's not the same country, but it's still of that, and I apologize if I am incorrect, and I mean no offense, but I think it's of more of that Middle Eastern inspired aesthetic, because again, it being in, I think, Iran. So I think, at least us Western players that don't have a detailed knowledge of different cultures, like me, will get very much AC1 Revelations vibes from the world. I think it will be around the same size as Unity Paris. I think that makes a lot of sense. It was a big city, or you could say London Syndicate. It's a big city to explore. There's going to be a ton of viewpoints. I think it's going to be very jam-packed. I think the city will be. Like, I think there'll be alleyways to go down, to hide around corners. There'll be big open spaces as well, like in the more richer districts. But I think in general, it's going to be a very claustrophobic city to explore. I think it will be very unique in that regard. I think it will be kind of unlike any city we've explored in an Assassin's Creed game before, kind of just by aesthetics as well. It being a massive round city, at the time the biggest city in the world, but yeah, a round one, Yeah, it will look like cities we've explored in the past, but I think due to the layout of the city, it will kind of stand out, and I think eventually it will become maybe fairly iconic as an Assassin's Creed location. Like how Florence or Venice is pretty iconic, or Rome is iconic in the AC series. I think Baghdad might end up becoming a fairly iconic place. You know, in years to come, when we look back at the AC series, Baghdad, you know, you say Rome was a great city to explore because of this, because of that. Constantinople as well, Venice, and Baghdad. I think it will be, you know, on the top 5 or top 10 list of places to explore in Assassin's Creed games. I think it would also, though, potentially not have much to do in the city. Now, the only reason I say this is because they've mentioned focusing on the main narrative, the main story, and they've been focusing on, you know, going back to its roots, so they say. We are yet to see gameplay, so we can't really know whether that is the case or not until we get our hands on the game or see some gameplay or something. But that's what they're saying. It's a return to its roots, so I think they're going to mainly focus on the main story, and that's what they think is going to please the gamers. And, you know, I'll agree with that. But based off of Ubisoft's last 2 games, really, they've been huge open worlds with nothing much to do, or the stuff you do is so far apart that you're just running kind of in a straight line through the wilderness until you get to your next objective, which is arguably, subjectively or objectively, bad game design. Now, I think Mirage, again, is going to focus on their main story and making the world amazing. I think they might potentially also, again, neglect side content. Now, I wouldn't say that's necessarily a bad thing if the main story is really good, the world's really good, but I feel like, you know, there won't be as many activities to do within the world. Maybe you want to break from your main story and you want to chill out for a bit. Maybe, you know, there isn't going to be kind of anything to split up you taking a break from mainline content. Maybe there'll be a few collectibles to find throughout the world. Maybe similar to the Ishak Pasha, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, pages in Revelations, or the flags in AC1, or the feathers in AC2. But, you know, I feel like, you know, viewpoints as well, but I feel apart from that, there might not be much to do. I don't think there'll be many scripted and, you know, story-filled side quests. I could be wrong, but this is my prediction. I feel like in reviews, people will mention a lot, aside from the main story, which is really good, aside from the world, which is really good, again, you know, there isn't much else to do apart from the few collectibles here and there. That's my prediction. Again, I could be completely wrong, and that's why it's called a prediction, you know, and I'm open to being wrong. But that's what I think potentially will happen based off of their last few games and their new focus being a main story, being a single player, not single player, but you know, it is single player, but not that focus, being mainly focused on an action adventure narrative, I suppose. All right, let me look in chat before I go on to the next point. Yeah, apologies for not reading too much. There's a lot to read here. So again, if I miss what you said, I do apologize. Just seeing okay, let's see this. Just seeing they're going back to a city-style game gives me hope for the future. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think at least this game's game world is going to be impressive, I think. I think we will appreciate and we will look back in years to come once the game comes out and say, that was a really good Assassin's Creed, you know, location, you could say. But I think future games will probably still lean into massive countries to explore. You know, with the Japan game, I think it's going to be pretty much the whole of Japan. It's going to be very similar to Odyssey, I think. So there will be Ubisoft developer teams that still want to go on that RPG route. And, you know, I think that is still what Ubisoft see as the money-making scheme, or not scheme, but the cash cow is these massive open worlds because they can sell microtransactions. They can increase playtime with players, which looks good to investors, and you know they're losing investors right now, so there's all that. Now, from that, I suppose I can lean into microtransactions, my prediction for that. Now, I predict there will be microtransactions within Assassin's Creed Mirage. Now, I know some of you will say right now, they've said there isn't going to be microtransactions. They said you aren't going to do this. I don't think they've specifically come out and literally said we're not going to have microtransactions. And even if they have, that can be subject to change, you know? Microtransactions aren't a integral part of gameplay that can either be there or not be there. You know, they can add it down the line after release. You know, Valhalla came Microtransactions came for Valhalla a good while after release because they wanted good reviews, and then they snuck in those microtransactions. So there's a chance they do bring in microtransactions. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be XP boosters and stuff because it's not going to be an RPG. So there's probably not going to be leveling up, from what I understand or what I predict. But I do think they will have microtransactions such as cosmetic items. Maybe there's an extra robe for Basim that you can't really get in the game, but you can buy it for $3.99. Or maybe, even though the main story is a more grounded Assassin's Creed story, if you really love those fantasy aspects of Odyssey and Valhalla, you can buy a flaming sword in the Helix store for $2.99. And what that will do is it will light every weapon you use on fire, or it'll give you a specific one. I feel like that stuff is still going to be in the game. For mounts as well, there's going to be horses in the game because we've already seen, I don't know whether it was leaked or officially revealed, that Prince of Persia pre-order pack or something like that, and there was a mount, a demon-looking mount in the game. So it'd be stuff like that. And as long as that doesn't take away from the game itself, I won't be too angry. My issue with microtransactions in Valhalla cosmetically, because a lot of people say, well, it doesn't affect the game. If you don't like it, don't buy it. That's a whole other conversation. But what I will say is, it kind of wasn't good to me though, because I played through Valhalla, and one thing I really noticed was there was not much of a selection of customizable items you could have. Yeah, you get through different armors in the game, or different robes and different weapons. But a lot of it looked very similar, a lot of it looked bland, a lot of it was just the same. And I never really changed my armors or robes that much within the game once I got one that kind of had good stats. Because I feel like half of those created assets were in the Helix store. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the way I saw it. So it could be a potential worry if Ubisoft are then to take a lot of really cool looking robes, weapons and stuff from Basim or from the game, and then locking it behind a paywall. So I will, when the game comes out and it does have that, I will critique it fairly, and I will be doing a review when the game comes out. I will be doing anything you can imagine with Assassin's Creed Mirage. I will be doing it. I will be spending as much time as possible just bashing, is that the word? I don't know, but, getting out all of this Mirage content, where to find this, how to do that, what's this, I'm going to do it all, all right? I'm going to do it all for you guys. So, I will critique things here and there. And let's move on to the next thing, because that's what I can really say about microtransactions, unless you guys have something to say about that. Brandon says microtransactions will probably be in the game now because Ubisoft are having a bit of a financial crisis. That's a good point, and thank you for reminding me. That was the point I also wanted to make. Ubisoft saying there won't be microtransactions in the game originally, or alluding to that at least, doesn't really stand now that we are hearing about, investors pulling out, sales dropping, having to cut back on their budget by cancelling games to try and save money and keep themselves kind of leveled financially. So I think when they release their most popular game in the series, and they might not be having another one for a couple years at least, I think, in their current situation, along with what we know them to be as a company in the last few years, I think Mirage will be too good of an opportunity to pass up with microtransactions. They might not put it in the game as it releases, but a month later, they might add a few here and call it a free update. Or not a free update, but, an update where they have these new things that you can buy in the store and stuff like that. I do think microtransactions will be in Assassin's Creed Mirage. Now, let's move on. I will read some other bits in chat, though. Just seeing they're going back to... Oh, I already read that. We did see Basim riding a camel around Alamut as well. Yeah, there was you could call it a gameplay screenshot or a concept screenshot. It's kind of up in the air and they don't really describe it. I think it's more concept, maybe an engine, I don't know. Anyway, we saw Basim on a camel. Again, different mounts. It makes sense to utilize the opportunity, as a company at least, to throw in a ton of microtransactions of different mounts you can buy. That sort of thing doesn't interest me. Just give me a horse or give me a camel, because I suppose that is geographically and historically accurate to have camels. Just give me that. I don't care about a flying unicorn, But young kids will, and young kids are probably the ones that that microtransactions appeal to, and they are, the ones that will probably end up paying a lot in the game. Anyway, moving on. Will be nice to have recruits again. Yeah, like assassin recruits. I don't know whether that's been confirmed or not. I've read so much about Mirage, but I've talked about it for so long, I forget what was leak, I forget what was a rumor, I forget what was official. It depends how they do it again. This isn't one of my predictions. I'm just chatting with you guys in the chat about that. But yeah, recruits. I think they were done well. They were done the best in Brotherhood. I think it likely that they might bring that back. I'm not going to really talk too much about that because I'd have to think about that, and I don't want to have a load of silence in this, seeing we are live. If we weren't live, I'd sit and think about it and then talk about it, but, we can probably talk about that soon, or you guys can update, give me more in the chat. I think graphically, the game is going to be exactly the same technology-wise and engine-wise as Valhalla. You could say, well, Unity's was the same as Valhalla, and Unity looked better. I think I came to the conclusion that Unity looked better than Valhalla and Origins and Odyssey, mostly because of its animations. Its facial animations, it was all mo-capped from what I understand, whereas Valhalla and Odyssey and Origins, being these massive games, they weren't mo-capped with the, the facial animations and stuff like that, because there's so many lines to record. The more productive way to do things is just to sit in a studio and record all your lines. Where again, Unity was a smaller story, so it looked a lot better graphically because of the animations looking better and stuff like that. Now, I think it possible they might mocap this game, so the, with cutscenes, so like, cutscenes do look better, and then you subconsciously think the graphics look better, At the same time, I don't usually put much past Ubisoft when it comes to laziness, and I know that might sound a bit, rude coming from me, but I mean, just from what we've seen with the last few games, they reuse assets, which is fine if done well, but sometimes they reuse assets kind of lazily. They do a lot of things that I think, well, that could have been done in a more intuitive way, but I guess that would have taken longer and stuff like that. And with this game not having been in development for really that long by the time it comes out, from what we understand, I think they might not mocap it. It might just be, voice actors in the studio recording, so even animations will look exactly the same as Valhalla's. So I think animations could look more like Unity's, or they could look more like Valhalla's. I'm going to go more with it just being the same as Valhalla, to be honest, completely, with graphics, with engine, with animations. Now, I think there will be new animations, as I said, for parkour. Potentially for combat as well, even if combat is the same as Valhalla's, because they'll want Basim to have his own maybe unique fighting style, unique climbing style, and stuff like that. But I think in most cases, overall, it will mainly just be Valhalla's, Technically, the cinematic trailers look way better than the gameplay itself. Well, of course. If it's something CGI, it's always going to look better than in engine, because, I don't know, but, technology is, I suppose, more advanced that way. I don't know, but it's always been the case. And that's why I don't really base anything on the Mirage reveal trailer, because it was just a CGI trailer. It was just a announcement, it was not, sort of accurate reflection of gameplay as we know it. Maybe it is, but we don't know because we haven't seen gameplay. I kind of more call it more of an artistic interpretation of what the game will be, or the final product. Another thing I hope they add to Mirage, says Brandon, is dyeing your robes different colours like you did in AC2, Brotherhood and Revelations. That was one of my favourite features to have when you visit the tailor. Yeah, I'm with you there. I am with you there. Do I predict that to be in the game? In Mirage, not armour, but robe dyeing and stuff like that. I would say yes. I do predict that to be in the game. Whether they lock that behind microtransactions or not, who's to say? They might unlock, the assassin white, proper pure white dye behind a paywall. They might put sort of different inspired looks from other games behind a paywall. But then your standard, robe dyes such as crimson, such as, the kind of creamy colour that is what we've seen in the trailers, such as black maybe, such as dark blue, that all might be available for a tailor. Quickly talking about microtransactions, I also think, in-game currency will potentially be a microtransaction, I think... in-game currency such as gold or whatever the currency is, you can maybe buy that from the microtransaction store, and then you can buy things quicker, such as changing your robes, such as buying new weapons and stuff like that. Story wise, let's talk about story. I believe it will be an Assassin's Creed story. I do believe it will be focused around the hidden ones, focused around Basim's struggle with him and his, real or reincarnated persona as Loki, and the battle between, personalities. Who am I really? And I think that could be done well. But let's talk about Assassin's Creed as a story. I personally think it will go back to, you are an assassin, you are fighting, you are the Templars or the Order of Ancients, you are, involved in trying to liberate the city, perhaps. But I don't think they will get an accurate sort of, or more of a true telling of what an Assassin's Creed story is. Now, what I mean by that is... what made an Assassin's Creed story to begin with was a lot to do with the philosophy of the creed. What does it mean to be an assassin, but more, what does it mean to believe what you believe, and why are you fighting? For what reasons are you fighting this fight? Are you the good guys, or are you really the bad guys? Like, it was all a matter of perception, and it was a battle of ideology more than it was a battle for victory, between the Templars and the Assassins. Along with that, it was also the main protagonist's journey within that creed. You'd start as somebody young within the order. Maybe you would have your own dilemmas, your own beliefs on things, and it was a story about how maybe your own beliefs can contradict the creed, and maybe how you take the beliefs of the creed or the tenets of the creed and apply them in your own unique way. That was an Assassin's Creed game. And then you'd have the history stuff kind of as a backdrop. You'd have the assassin versus Templars, the ideologies, the philosophically. Oh my god, philosophy. That was what I was going for. And then you'd have the history, the historical characters, the world, that sort of thing. It was a backdrop. With the most recent games, they lost kind of their identity with that. It was more about history. History is the most important thing. And then they put everything else as a backdrop. They kind of reversed it. Perfect example, Valhalla. History, Vikings, being in that history was the main selling point, the main part of the game. And then the assassins was the backdrop, the assassins being, you go to the assassin tombs, you can read about the philosophy of the assassins. But again, it was a small part of the game that you could easily just not do or not think about. So it was kind of reversed. So I think with Assassin's Creed Mirage, I think there's a high chance that the writers thought, okay, we're going to make a story about assassins, but they might lack the understanding of the philosophy, the understanding, the debating, the war of belief. I feel like they might kind of neglected that part of it. And they'll focus a lot more on Basim's struggle with him and his Isu reincarnated self. I think that will be more of the focus, and Assassins will be more of the backdrop to that. That's my prediction for that. I think the story will start as you being an assassin, and maybe that will be the main focus for a while. But again, it will be the backdrop to Basim and his split personality. And then as the game goes on, it will focus less on the assassins and more as Basim and Loki. And then it will kind of go into more Isu territory as he learns more, has more visions, maybe gets into the acquirement of a piece of Eden, which teaches him more. I think it will lose more sort of vision from the assassins, and it will focus more on, again, that fantastical stuff. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'd love to see a good story, a good writing about Basim's confliction. That can be done really well, and I believe it can be. But, you know, I don't want it again to lose its identity from what makes Assassin's Creed. Now, you know, you can focus more on a character and, you know, his traits more than you do the philosophy of the Assassin's Creed. And I wouldn't say that's technically bad, but again, it's how you do it. You know, you don't want to neglect the assassin order within an Assassin's Creed game. You don't want to throw it away or forget about it. You can balance it out, you know, and I think that's what the older games did well. You know, at times where, for example, Ezio would have his own struggles, his own sort of story going on that wasn't completely focused on the order as a whole. The Assassin Order was still very much there. Its tenets were very much still there because the writing was done in a way to accommodate for character development, their own story, along with the Assassin Order, the tenets of the Creed, and the philosophy of such, if that makes sense. So I think overall, to wrap that part up, I think Ubisoft will kind of focus more on Basim, more on the Isu, and less on the Assassin's Order, especially as the game progresses. That's what I think. I could be wrong with all of these things. Again, just a reminder, these are my predictions. So don't get mad at me and say, you're wrong, you're wrong. I might be wrong. But, you know, we can respectfully agree or disagree, and we can respectfully predict. And then when the game comes out, I can throw my hands up in the air and say, I was so wrong. I was so wrong. Or I can throw my hands up in the air and say, I was pretty right there, wasn't I? I got it pretty right. So there's a few more things, but I will just read you guys in the chat a bit more. Dan Nerd, how you doing, man? You're always in the live streams. I love you, bro. You're always here supporting me. Well, I love you all. I love you all. But, you know, I recognise some people more than I do others. But the more you guys are in chat, I'm sure the more I recognise all of you. And a lot of you, most of you I do. Six Style, Dan says, thank you, bro. Thank you, bro. I'm not quite Corner from AC3 with his sick robes. But yeah, I suppose I'll do. I guess. And, you know, you probably think I'm a weirdo for wearing a coat indoors. But, you know, it's sleeveless. And I'm actually boiling right now, so I should probably take it off. But, like, you know, sometimes you got to take fashion over practicality. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, Brandon says, for legacy outfits, they will be available in Ubisoft Connect. Yeah. And if we get Altair's swords, that will probably be available through a paywall. Yeah, you might be right there. That's a good prediction. Legacy outfits usually are through Uplay and then what, you know, evolved into Ubisoft Connect, you know. They usually are for most games, right? So I would be, you know, I would probably agree with you there. But I also wouldn't put it past Ubisoft because of their financial situation being a little bit rough, thinking, well, it was going to go in Ubisoft Connect and you could unlock it by doing different things within the game. But think about the money we can make if we just make Ezio's outfit worth $5.99 in the store. Yeah, let's just chuck it in there. You know what I mean? I wouldn't put it past them. So I'm with you, but I'm also with the idea that it could also probably cost you money and we could actually get a lot less things than we even used to. I'm just checking chat. That's why I'm like looking over my shoulder. I think I've kind of read most of your guys' stuff. I'm sorry if I missed anything. When we get DLCs, brackets, hopefully, I hope we will get to return to Constantinople and, you know, meet Hytham and Sigurd. Yeah, I thought of that. I guess we could go for predictions with that in the story. I kind of think that could be alluded at the end of Assassin's Creed Mirage, you know, meeting Sigurd in Constantinople. I think it would be likely that, you know, by the end of Mirage, it will have a span of 40 years perhaps. Maybe we'll even see the birth of Basim, kind of like we did with Ezio, and then by the end of the game we will have a very seasoned assassin, someone who really knows who they are, or who they were as Loki, and we kind of do lead up to the events of Valhalla, you know, kind of leaning less of an origin story for a character and more into a prequel to the game before. I think, you know, I don't think we'll be exploring Constantinople within the main game, but perhaps we get a cutscene of Basim, you know, getting on the boat to go to Constantinople to, you know, maybe find out more about his past as Loki and who he truly is, and discover more Isu artifacts, because we know Masyaf is very near there. Then again, Masyaf was not an Isu temple at all. It just had the apple underneath it from Altair, and that didn't happen yet. But maybe we'll see Basim venture to Masyaf to sort of establish the assassin HQ there. Because in concept art, we've actually seen a lot of assassins wearing the standard Crusade Levantine robes that Altair wore. So perhaps, as we see the hidden ones transition into the assassin order, which I do predict we will see in the game, we start to see, things from AC1 start to come into play at the end of Mirage. They do perhaps go to Masyaf near the end of the game. It might just be a cutscene, or it might just be a sort of small place you explore just for that mission or that memory. And then maybe from there, story-wise, Basim's like, well, I've learnt about the city of Constantinople, and that's underneath there somewhere is another Isu temple. And, he goes there during a cutscene. And then maybe it cuts to 6 months later. He's in a tavern. He's having a drink in the corner. Like in Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, when Frodo and that are in the, the Prancing Pony or whatever it's called. And Aragorn or whatever is in the corner looking very mysterious. Maybe, Basim will be very similar. And then Sigurd will burst through his big Viking self. And he'll go up, get a pint. Everyone stops and looks. Basim is looking from the corner, and then they make acquaintance that way, perhaps. Maybe they have a brawl. Maybe they have a bit of a show-off in a way, or even of just words. And then it turns out Sigurd's like, oh, I like you. He's like, I like you. And and then Basim's like, yes, I like you very much. And then not like that. Not that we know of anyway. I don't think they had an attraction towards each other. Maybe they did. And then, the game ends there with them shaking hands or something, and that would just then cut to black, credits come up, and you're like, wow, that's how they met. And then if you were to go into Valhalla's story, then the context added would perhaps make that story even better. I think that could be how the game potentially ends. And then maybe we'll get a DLC, as you said, Brandon, where we get to explore part of Constantinople or the whole of it with Sigurd. Personally, I think if we're going to have the game story end with him meeting Sigurd, I think that would work better just leaving it there. So then when you go to Valhalla, you can kind of imagine sort of better stuff that happened within their relationship as they had, 6 months together? Was it something like that in Constantinople? Me personally, sometimes I think less is better. Filling in the context within your own mind can sometimes make a story better. Like, you allude to something, you show a glimpse of something, and then the next thing is something to do with that as well, but it's not got too much. Because, real quick side note, I feel like the Isu stuff was a lot better in the older games because it was very mysterious, because it was very much alluded to certain things and you questioned things and you couldn't wait till next year to learn more, but then it only give you a little bit more. I feel like that was what made the Isu and the ones who came before so good back then. Whereas in Odyssey, for example, you're exploring an Isu world pretty much in the DLC. You're talking to all these characters all the time. You pretty much know everything about them. I feel like it kind of takes away from what made it so mysterious and good in the first place. So I can carry that over, personally for me, at least, into, a main story for Assassin's Creed Mirage. I'd love to see them meet, Basim and Sigurd, but I wouldn't want to see too much of their adventures together, just personally for me, because, again, you see too much, it kind of, I've seen it now, and it's kind of not as good as I thought it would be, you know what I mean? That's just me personally, feel free to disagree. How long have we been going for? Where's the time? What time is it? Oh, we've gone for almost an hour. I've got a few more things to say, so we won't go quite yet. I find it pretty cool that... sorry, guys. Can I just chuck my glasses on real quick to read this? My eyesight really is not good, is it? I get worried it's going to get worse as the years go by. Oh, that's better. I find it pretty cool that Lee Madjoub, if I'm saying that correctly, probably not, is playing Basim in Mirage. I thought they were going to bring back Carlo Rota, who played him... Oh, so they're doing a different voice actor. I didn't actually know that. Is that right? Carlo Rota, who played him and Loki in Valhalla. Interesting. That is interesting. Maybe they just thought, this younger take of Basim needed a different sort of approach when it came to, character, voice, that sort of thing. I'm not gonna hate on that. Let's see him. What's his name? Lee Majub. Let's see him, acting when we actually get to see the game to make a judgment on whether that's good or not. He's better actor than me, I'm sure, so I can't say too much. Okay, let's read the last few predictions that I have. I said that part. I think when it comes to game time, we already know that Assassin's Creed Mirage has been at least explained or described by Ubisoft developers to be around, what did they say? Did they say 20 hours long, or did they just say a shorter game? I think they just said a shorter game, and then people predicted it was going to be around 20 hours, or it was alluded to by certain people. Now, when you say 20 hours long, for an example at least, you've got to think about what that means. I think that's not just story. I think if you were to race through the main story of Mirage, I'd say it's probably going to be about the length of the Revelations main story, probably a little bit longer. That's what I'd say for that. And that's not a 20-hour long story. If you go just through it, that's more like a 6 to 9 hour story, maybe 10-hour story if you're just to do main story missions. But I think when they say 20-hour, 25-hour game, that's exploring the world. That is potentially getting collectibles, doing all the viewpoints. Maybe there's multiple ways of assassination within black box missions, which we know are coming back to Mirage, or we've been told at least. So maybe 25 hours is if you do the same black box mission, but you complete every different avenue of different ways of assassinating your target and stuff like that. That is potentially if you they might bring back renovations. Now, I'll talk about that actually in a minute. That's if you renovate every landmark and store within the game. That makes, brings it up to 20 hours, 25 hours. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm saying that's what it might be. So I think if you were to, for your guys' reference, think about Revelations, if you played Assassin's Creed Revelations, and think about how long it took you roughly to kind of finish the story, do a few of the side stuff you did, do a few collectibles, maybe you didn't 100% it, but you played a decent amount of it. How long did that take you? I think personally Mirage is going to be around that length. Again, probably a little bit longer, but around that. I think Revelations is a good sort of, reference for game time within Mirage. Again, that's a prediction, which is what we're doing right now. Hi, says... I'm sorry if I say your name wrong. Hang on, glasses. Hatsu Arais. I'm very sorry if I said your name completely wrong. Anyway, but hello, yeah, how you doing? You've kind of caught us at the end here. But we'll probably be going for another 15 minutes or so. And if you want to hear all my predictions for Assassin's Creed Mirage, feel free to rewind this live stream to the beginning or whatever. Or, watch it. Once it's finished airing, you'll be able to go back and watch it whenever you want as basically a video. So, what was I saying? Oh, renovations. Do I predict renovations such as the ones you would do in Brotherhood and Revelations will be back in Assassin's Creed Mirage? I'm thinking about this now because I didn't really think about that before. No. I don't think there will. I don't think it will. I think it should. I think that'd be really cool. Something tells me it won't be, though. I thought there'll be shops for you to visit, but I don't think you'll be able to renovate them. I think there'll be landmarks to visit, but I don't think you'll be able to renovate them. That's just my prediction based off of what I think we'll see. Again, this game is being developed in a lot of them are developed in short amounts of time in the Assassin's Creed series, but this game, from what we understand, hasn't had too long of development. Probably less time than Valhalla, at least. So whether they can fit in all of these amazing things in the development time is up for debate. So whether we will see renovations and stuff, these extra features, I don't know. Maybe they'll release it as an update down the line or something like that. Well, I don't know. I just went I don't know why I went so weird then. But yeah, I don't think there will be renovations within the game, but I think Baghdad would be a great city for that. I mean, massive cities overall, kind of in Assassin's Creed games, are ripe for that sort of gameplay. So I think it would be good. I think it would increase game time if you want to play games for a long time and that sort of thing. But will I think we'll see it? I don't reckon we will. I don't reckon we will. You might think that we will, and that's fair enough. This is literally just my own brain working here. So yeah, who knows? Not me, not you, not no one until we see gameplay. Now, let's do one final prediction. When will we see gameplay? Now, I did talk about this in the last episode, but we'll briefly touch upon it here because I guess it makes sense to touch upon it. And then if I do edit this into a sort of smaller video to go up on my, on this channel at some point, then I guess we can add this at the end. Now, I did mention in the last live stream, the last podcast, that this game, I think we will see gameplay within the next month, the next 2 months, maybe the next 3 at a stretch. Ubisoft are losing investors, they're losing money, blah, blah. We've talked about that. They're going to want to show off their game to get a load more pre-orders in so they make a lot more money. They want more people like me, talking about the game. Because the more we talk about it, the more likely people are to pre-order, more likely people are to buy the game when it comes out. The more hyped up people get, the more excited they get, the more loose with their money they are at the end of the day. So I think we will see gameplay within the next month or 2. We'd be lucky to see it within 1 month. I think it would be likely between the next 2 or 3, I'm just going to say. But it's potential. Oh, it's potential. It's like, I'm not saying it's unlikely we're going to see gameplay within the next month, but it's more likely we'll see it between now and March, let's say. March, I think, is a good time to show gameplay, I think. Because if they're releasing it at the end of summer, I think, or the beginning of summer, sometime around then, from what we've seen leak-wise, rumor-wise, show gameplay in March. You get a few months to digest it, a few months to get in your pre-orders, and a few months for basically free marketing from people like me, people who make videos about this stuff, along with a potential Ubisoft marketing campaign where they show off trailers, they put the logo for the game on billboards, on buses, that sort of thing. You got a few months to do it then. So I think it makes sense to see gameplay within, around March, I would say. I could be completely wrong. We might get gameplay tomorrow, but I doubt it. I think it will come in March. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it when it comes to my predictions for Assassin's Creed Mirage. It will be interesting to look back at this when the game comes out to see if I was wrong, to see if I was right, to see if you guys were wrong, to see if you guys were right. I'm completely open to debate. I'm completely open to being right, to being wrong. Because who knows at this point. And I don't necessarily want to be completely right because there's a few things I've predicted here that I don't think I would like to see, such as less of a focus on the Assassin Order, more of a focus on the Isu, such as, not much to do within the world potentially except for main quests and collectibles, stuff like that. So I'd love to be wrong on that stuff. I'd love for the world to be full of great stuff to do aside from the main story. I'd love the game to be full of a great story about the philosophy of the assassins, balanced with the contemplation of Basim and Loki. I'd love that. So I'm open to being wrong, but I do think, come when the game comes out, there'll be a lot that I look back at from today and think, yeah, you were right on a lot of things. But again, that's just my prediction. Well, that's about it, to be honest. I think we'll probably call it a day there, and we will be back streaming on Friday. Now, I'm about to post a YouTube short for Assassin's Creed Mirage that I recorded earlier. It's just kind of what I've talked about before, but I'm kind of putting them into a more of a short, digestible format for kind of new people to find my videos. So look out for that within the next probably hour or so. Other than that, I'm still working on bigger scripted projects for Assassin's Creed and for games. Sorry, I keep spitting when I'm talking. And for games that aren't Assassin's Creed. Again, such as my Oblivion, The Elder Scrolls Travels, the cancelled PSP Oblivion game that never was, that I made recently. Again, if you haven't checked that out and you like my content, then I would really appreciate you checking out that video because I put a lot of work into it. I think it's the best video I've ever done. And, it's getting love, but it would be good to get, it's not Assassin's Creed, so it's not getting as much love as most of my videos. So if you want to check that out, feel free. If you don't want to, you don't have to, and I'll be fine. I appreciate your support even just by watching right now. So I will read a few more of your chat. I'll talk with you guys a little bit more, and then we'll head off. We'll call it a day. Do you think Assassin's Creed Mirage Oh my god, I'm so blind. Do you think I'm just going like this? Do you think Assassin's Creed Mirage combos like Prince of Persia? What do you mean combat wise? Do I think there's going to be combos in fighting? Nah, I don't reckon there will be. No, I don't think so. Assassin's Creed never really has been that sort of game combat wise, even when it was, you could chain counter kill and stuff like that, but it wasn't really combo sort of style. When it comes to sort of punch punch punch, kick punch punch combo, if that's what you're talking about. So I don't think Mirage will be that. Again, I think it will just be Valhalla combat with a few new animations here and there to fit Basim's sort of style and the style of the world in which he is situated, if that makes sense. So no, I don't think there will be like combos in fighting, because that would be I suppose there was kind of combo style fighting in Syndicate, so I tell a lie. There was Syndicate sort of combos, and that combat was pretty much taken universally as a very terrible combat system. It was just hack and slash, but there was no skill. You were just button mashing. You could literally close your eyes and do it. If you memorize when to hit, when to maybe counter here and there, you could literally do it with your eyes closed. So I don't think they're going to bring that sort of combat back. So no, I don't think there will be combos. I could be wrong. I wouldn't really like that combat in AC, to be honest. What, combos? Yeah, no, nor would I personally. I hope soon in gameplay or a trailer. What did you say? Is that leading on from something else you said, or I don't know. Yeah, we'll see it soon. We'll see some soon. Here's your prediction for a gameplay trailer. Prediction for gameplay trailer release will probably be around April, May, and the game release around July, August. Yeah, you could be right. The only reason I say March, or a kind of an earlier sort of release of a trailer or gameplay, only because of Ubisoft's issues right now, their ongoing struggle, blah blah blah. We've talked about that. Because of that, I feel like they'll be in more of a rush to show something. Yeah, I do think that's the case. But you could also be completely right, and I could be wrong. So that's what I think personally. But I do think we will see gameplay, maybe a story trailer, Basim, what is this? I am Loki. It's just a trailer of Basim learning just a story. You see characters, you see Basim, you see the world. It's a story trailer. Cutscenes probably from in the game. And then I think alongside that, we will see a release date. And alongside that, we will see maybe 5 minutes of gameplay. I'm just thinking. I would not put it past Ubisoft at all not to even show us a gameplay trailer or a gameplay presentation. Do you know what? I might actually change my prediction on that. I don't think we're going to see a 5 minute or any minute gameplay presentation. I don't. I think we're going to just see gameplay trailer, which is going to be, gameplay edited in a way that kind of makes it look cinematic, but you're not really seeing the game being played, if that makes sense. Like, for example, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Like the new Star Wars Jedi Survivor trailer, that's kind of gameplay, but it's not a gameplay presentation. I think we'll kind of just see that. I don't think we're going to get a presentation. Now, I didn't think about that until now, but something just tells me we're not going to see that, and that makes a lot of sense to me. Then again, Valhalla got a gameplay presentation trailer, so I don't know about that. You guys can let me know in the chat, and if you haven't got time to do that, because we're going to be, going off of there in a minute, you can let me know in the comments if you'd like to do so. Looking at their financial situation, I think that they're gonna deliver a good game. Yeah, potentially. It depends what you see as a good game. The story's been written, so the story and writing could be awful, or it could be really good. I don't think that's an indication. I don't think that's an indication of a good game when it comes to Ubisoft, because again, or not an indication of their financial struggles right now, because the story was probably written way before their financial struggles, or before they realized how much of a worry it actually was. So, you could say a game's bad subjectively because the story's not very good, or not, at least not how you thought it would be. So then you got to talk about gameplay wise. gameplay could be great, but story could be rubbish. Does that make the game good? You know, it's subjective. It's all up to opinion at that point. I think gameplay-wise, we will appreciate it. I think gameplay-wise, just the fact that it's probably going to play better than Valhalla in general, or more how like it used to, that's kind of enough for most people to say the gameplay's good. You know, whether it has bugs, whether it has flaws, I think it just being more closer to Unity and stuff like that, most people will just say that makes it a good game, you know? Based off of... And I can understand that. But, you know, as I've started making these types of videos, I naturally, even without thinking, start to see things a lot more critically and a lot more, is it sort of objectively good or objectively bad, though, you know? Rather than, like, I want it to be like this, so because it is, it's good. You know what I mean? So, I think it will be received well. I do think it will be received well. Whether that means it's a true Assassin's Creed really good game, you know, just because it's received well doesn't mean it will be. So we'll see. Anyway, guys, that's probably about it from me. Chris says, I'll quickly reply to you. The gameplay presentation of Valhalla was a leak, I reckon. I'm just thinking, what was it? I thought it was just... honestly, I was not up to date with Valhalla because I wasn't making these videos back then. I was just kind of seeing it as and when, so maybe. But I'm pretty sure they did do an official sort of voiceover. You will be doing this. You can do flighting, and you can collect tattoos flying through the air. And you can do this in Assassin's... Like, there was a gameplay presentation like that, was there not? I don't know. It was like 3 years ago at this point. 3 years ago at this point. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I had a good time talking to you guys today. I got out what I predict. And, you know, you guys also did. From... I don't know what I was going to say there. That's what happens when it's live. Sometimes you just like, what? But yeah, guys, you know, I might make an updated predictions once we see gameplay, or I might make a sort of retrospective look back at what I've said once the game's out and we can see whether I was right or wrong, stuff like that. I don't know. And I think I probably will edit this down and condense it down into maybe a 10-minute, if possible, sort of small video on my predictions for Valhalla to put on the channel as a, you know, an actual edited video. Because I think potentially that could be quite interesting for people who didn't want to watch it live or didn't want to sit for an hour, you know. So yeah. All right, guys. Well, I'll leave you guys there. I love you guys. May the Fire of Understanding guide us. I will see you soon. And see you later. I hope you guys have a good day, a good evening. I sure will. I probably won't be going to bed till very late. So, you know, I've got more stuff to do. Anyway, guys, take it easy. I will see you soon. Peace. Goodbye.